Hi, Margarita. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Excited to have you on Cillian Trillion.
Me too. Very nice to be on.
We've heard, so much about you throughout, all the social media accounts and all the press and all these things. And I think that obviously there's that celebrity version of you, and there's obviously a real version of who you actually are. If there was someone that was to meet you now without knowing, your background, let's say, who do you think they would meet? Who is Margarita?
Well, definitely a 40 lived all of our years. Um, yeah, I'm a mother of two of big boys now, so that's a big element. I still have a heavy baggage from my family of origin in good and bad, but that's yeah, still a relevant uh, part of myself. And yeah, I don't think I've ever been more myself than currently.
I think that's the beauty of being in your 40s, you just
Yeah.
get so comfortable and you're just, like, finally happy. It's like that
That's what
stage of
my
your life.
mom
Yeah,
always used to say.
I know there's a lot of bad rep around getting older, and I really think that 40s are really the decade when you just really come to terms with, like, who you are and you embrace it as opposed to try to fight it and be someone else, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
for
What
sure.
what do you think is one thing that people always get wrong about you?
When I was, I mean, I, especially when I was younger, but I think it still happens now. It's just that people mostly got used to it and they don't tell me that often. I have a thing where I look at people. I'm a bit of an observer, but I am also a bit myopic, like farsighted.
Yeah,
Sure is I
short-sighted,
can't see from
from far.
short-sighted. I can't see from far. And so my eyesight sometimes just zooms out, and I see double and I relax them and I'm not really focusing on what I have in front of me, but it looks as if I'm staring. So there's a lot of people who are often feel like judged by me or a bit scared by the way I look, and that's not the case. But there's a lot of like friends of my younger sister who used to be really scared of me, who then became friends and told me, yeah.
I feel like you've definitely lived many lives. I mean, you started like working and becoming a public figure very, very young. But let's talk, it's a silly trillion. So let's talk about motherhood for a little bit.
hmm
When you first became a mom, what did you think a good mom was? And how did that even change throughout the years?
So I had a mother that was very present in my life, as in terms of quality, and definitely the most important figure for me growing up. Very, very close emotionally, but she worked a lot and I would hang out a bit in the office. I had nannies, I had grandmothers, I had friends of hers as well that that looked after me every now and then. There was a kind of like sisterhood of a network of women around. And I never missed her. I never wished it were different, right? So I never judged her for choosing to work. When I became a mother myself, though, my ex husband had a very specific and patriarchal vision of the family. And I don't blame it on him. We was, and we both thought the other would change. But I started questioning myself a lot. I started questioning having guilt trips about wanting to have a realization outside of motherhood, about needing my social life and seeing my friends, about needing other things that were not at home and within my family, whether it was work or my family of origin, even, or my friends. And so that was quite heavy, but it also got really inside myself where I started believing that maybe was not a good mother because of that. Even now I've been separated for 4 years, and that was, coming back to myself was the big thing about separating and really understanding who I was again because I could choose what I thought was wrong or right. The motherhood part of it was still is still the hardest one to overcome and go back to what the way my mind was prior to the influence that I received when my kids were born. So it's better now, but it's not fully cured.
It never is. I feel like
Mm.
motherhood is
Yeah,
like a
that's a
very long
struggle.
therapy.
That's a struggle for every working mother. I know, I'm sure. And, you also, society puts very much on us, you know, the fact that you have to identify with one role, whether you're the seductrice or you're the party girl or you're the boss girl, which is not the case for men, and which is something that I really don't fit in. Yeah. Now, when I started my brand right at the same time when I got separated, and it was a big moment in my life, everything changed. I got out of Missoni and all that. And really the ethos of the brand is wanting to dress a woman from morning to after dinner in the same outfit without the need to change while she fulfills all the aspects of her life because she wants to be, a mother in the morning, and but she wants to go see her friends for aperitivo after work and then run home to put her kids to bed. And yeah, so I feel it strongly, this need.
Do you think motherhood is everything you thought it would be? Did you have any expectations about it, what it would be?
It flows pretty much how I thought it would flow. I definitely did not expect to have these guilt trips because I didn't see them in my mother. And it was a very, and I lived it really well from the other side, from being a child. So I didn't expect that. No.
How do you like when you start feeling these guilt trips, is there anything that kind of helps you manage it? Is it like you just talk to your
No, but
friend?
the thing is that, it's not rational. So it's emotional. It's
Yeah.
irrational. So I just need to really like breathe and meditate for a little bit. And then I get back to my senses and myself. And I realize, and also I really try to make it fine for me. So if I know that I'm going to be really busy and traveling for, you know, a lot of times during a month, I'll make sure that I'll make up for that
Yeah.
before and after by taking days off or dedicating my weekend to the kids or picking them up from school every day the next day and not working from 4 p.m. the next week. Sorry. Yeah. So it is a thin balance, but yeah, for sure being self-employed helps a lot.
Yeah.
I know that it's a real luxury to be able, especially, I mean, it's not like this everywhere, but in Italy, mothers who work are the ones who really need to work and have no other way. And so they find a way to make it happen. Or it's women like me who are lucky enough to be able to choose to work and be self employed and arrange their life to be able to, see their kids, have help, and all that. But it's very difficult. And there's I know I was talking about this the other day with my cousins. It's, uh, it's a luxury. There's a big chunk in the middle for whom it's much easier to just not work because they have no other way around. It would be too expensive to work.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like there's also this, especially because of social media and the kind of world that we're living in, you kind of like only get to see the highlights and the reels of like people's lives, especially when it comes to motherhood. So when you're in the thick of it, let's say, and you're going in your social media and you're saying everyone just posting their best photos with their kids and like, and with life work balance, quote unquote, which doesn't even exist because, there's always something that's got to give at the end of the day, right? When you're with your kids, you're not at work. And when you're at work, you're not with your kids and you have your own
Yeah.
company.
That everything you do, it's a choice, even when you're choosing. And someone told me that once, it really hit me because, every trip that you're taking, you're choosing to take it. So is it worth it? Is it not worth it? And then it's not only about the kids, it's also about our own well-being, which is something that I forget a lot of the times. I often put myself, I don't listen to myself a lot. If I'm, can I manage today? Yes, I can manage. I can go on, I can go on. And I risk reaching the limit. But it's important to always evaluate whether something is worth doing.
I think there's this idea of women also that we want to be like superheroes in a way, because I don't think men necessarily have the same burden of life work balance that we do, or like the same guilt that we do have when we go to work. They have no guilt. They're like, oh, I'm going to provide for my kids, so I'm going to go work.
Mm.
I don't feel that they do, which is kind of like unfair. But let's go back. You talked about your mom and how you were raised. Are there certain things about the way you were raised that you are trying to replicate with your sons, and some things that you don't like that you want to make sure that you don't do with them?
Yeah. Something that I've been reasoning more and more on recently is, as I was telling you earlier, I had sort of sisterhood around me when I was growing up, of women taking care of me. Not only women, I also had men in my case, though it was more women. And that's, if I have to say, something that we missed was a bit of male figures in our lives. But I think that it was good because you don't have only one adult reference to look at and pick from and learn from. You have plenty, many, and you can take bits from each one of them. And that way, if you only have one, you either copy or react doing the opposite. And back in the days when big families lived in the same, around each other, around the same courtyard, let's say, and the uncles would be around and the grandparents would be around and older cousins, kids had many references. Now, the way society is structured, where small families inside apartments, it's kind of isolating. There's only one adult, a female, or two adults references. And I don't think that's positive. And so this is something that I've really embraced because, as we were saying, you need a lot of help when you're a mother to raise your kids. And I have these figures, which right now I don't leave them anymore just like as a solution to my absence, but actually as a not a tool, but actually as
An
um,
addition to your pet, like,
yeah, like something that it's, yeah, good for my kids. And yeah, they have, for example, this was their old nanny when they were younger, and she was studying and she graduated and she's a psychologist now. And she loves them very much. So if she lives around here, so if I go out to dinner, I text her, and sometimes she can come over and she's have dinner with them and hang out. And then, now they're big, they're 12 and 10. So she sends them to bed and then she leaves. And there's someone in the house that sleeps here because we don't live in a city. But these are very important figures and they open up to each of us in a different way, which is something important because if you only have one person that you're only going to open up about certain things. And I was thinking about this again the other day, thinking about this person specifically. But then my son told me, you know, like with you, I talk a lot more about family stuff And with dad, I have an easier time talking about school stuff, which makes a lot of sense in that respect.
Yeah. It's so interesting. I would have never thought about it that way, but it is a lot of pressure as a parent, I guess, if you're the main, like if you're only two people acting as an example for them rather than them having a whole community of people around where they can just be doing that.
Because also there's not only one good way of doing things, and someone might have, more iris, but someone might be faster and more organized, and the other one. And so for a child, they learn from watching and emulating more than anything.
Yeah.
That's what really rationally solved also for me the fact that I was working,
Yeah.
because I'm the woman that they're gonna look for basically when they grow up.
Yeah.
And I want them to, I mean, I wish for them to look for a woman who's happy with her life and fulfilled as a person and not frustrated, and whether she's working or not, but just fulfilled. That's very important. I'm the woman they're going to look for, but also I'm the person that they're going to be. So it's not also, it's a reference in both sense.
How do you want your kids to remember you? Like, as a mom?
I hope that they feel they can always rely on me. And that's something that I think I got from them. For me, it's the most important that, they know I'm the safe port no matter what. I unconditional love, right?
Yeah.
And I think I think we're clear on that. I think they know that my love, they're not worried to disappoint me. They know my love. Of course, yes, they might be, you know, they might be worried to come home and tell me I got a,
About grade.
teacher note on my thing. No, more than a bad grade. Also, like a note on my diary or whatever. But they know that my love is important. Last year, for Women's Day, my youngest had to write, "Who's your favorite woman?" And he's like, "My favorite woman is my mommy because she's the cuddliest," which is
I have two boys, and I feel like I also come from a very matriarchal family. Like my grandma, like was Italian, my mom, like very
yeah,
big characters. And I constantly am thinking, because maybe I grew up with this idea that like boys grow up and then they leave, and the daughters are the ones that kind of like stay in the
yes,
family. So I'm constantly trying to figure out how do I raise boys that want to hang out with me when they're older. And like at 10 and 12, like mine are little, they're like 4 and almost 2. So obviously they're obsessed with me, but like, is there anything that you're doing, like, to make sure that you're close with them as they get older without becoming
I
like,
think that like one key aspect is not suffocating them because then they run off. I think a lot of boys, especially in Italy, from what I see, like reject, but kind of create a distance when mothers are too
both of them?
suffocating. But I think that rarely happens when a mother is realized and has her own life and things going on. A brother, so we are two sisters, and a brother in the middle. And my brother is the only boy, and he was obsessed with my mom. And we say mammone of someone who's like really into their moms and mammone. And he still is, but he's definitely not the one who looks after like the house, the family,
Yeah.
In fact, it was me and my sister. It was not my brother. As much as he's obsessed with my mother,
Yeah.
that's something that, yeah, we'll have to deal with. I'm having boys. Then who knows? Things might change, but I often think that it's my having boys. I came from a very matriarchal family where women's were very strong and present, even too much. And I thought growing up that my mom crushed my dad a bit, and that's why they separated. I always had that in the back. And so when I was starting my own family, I thought, there must be another way around. I'm definitely not gonna be with a man who's gonna be crushed by me, who's gonna be weaker by me. So there goes the choice of man, and there must be another way around. So the woman, I still wasn't ready for like, no, there needs to be no boss, but maybe it's not the woman that's the boss, it's the man that's the boss. And I lived that. Actually, when we got separated, I saw the effect that had on my children because despite the fact they're two boys, they one emulated me and the other one emulated the dad. And as soon as I kind of rebelled, then even their roles
Yeah.
changed. And I always thought that I had to have two boys, and I had to lead through everything that I leave to raise two boys for a new world. Nobody needs to be the boss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I had a they're very similar. Very similar.
Yeah.
You talked about that time in your life and that was very hard. Like, you left, like, you and your husband were no longer together. You left Missoni. Like, that is such a big identity
I didn't leave. I was let go, which is
Yeah.
nothing I chose. My husband broke up with me. I was let go. First, I was let go of me. So, I mean, it was a big, yeah, family thing, family, not family, but anyway, me and my mom were let go. And suddenly, yeah, definitely a big identity shift. It was not only a job. I literally thought that my whole future would be there. And, I was out of Missoni for a few years and then I went back because they asked me and then 6 months later, Hec's husband broke up with me. And yeah, everything I had planned kind of fell apart, was taken from me. And, I always planned everything so carefully. I always knew when I would do something and what was good and what was bad and how I was meant to be. And suddenly life was just taking them away from me. It happened. It happened. It was the realization came with a dear friend of mine passed away right after my ex-husband broke up with me. And that for me was big because it was, I saw him just before he passed away, and my ex-husband wouldn't have wanted me to see him, and I would have listened and done what he asked until a week before, but I didn't for the first time. And that's the last time I saw my friend, and that he passed. So I was like, wow, what if I hadn't? And how many other times did I do something that, did I not do something? Not because I thought it was wrong, but just because, I just wanted to have a harmonious family time. So that was a big, big plug in my brain. And I was able to first let go of my plans for my family life. And at the same time, I let go of my plans for my job because suddenly I was like, empty of everything. And that's when little things started happening to me. So, first of all, I had during that summer, a friend of my sister called me, asking me to be in a movie, which then it's a great movie. It's called Amanda. It went to the Venice Film Festival. I really recommend it. And it's funny because when I was younger, I studied acting and I wanted to be an actress until I realized that no, I didn't want to be an actress. I just loved the introspection of it at that time in my 20s. But it was funny because it was, I didn't have a job. So why not? And
Yeah.
I did it. And it was a bit of a circle closing. And it was life telling me, now that you've learned to let go of your plans, let's see if you're able to accept something unexpected but nice, you know?
Yeah.
Which I did. And then my boyfriend came along, which is I never would have I had, I thought I would be with someone a bit older who would let me be myself without feeling threatened. Someone already had children. And then I fell in love with someone 8 years younger, and now it's 3.5 years, and it's the best relationship of my life. I never thought I would have it now. I've never been happier. I mean, it's both very, very peaceful, but very exciting, which, yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, I grew up in South America and Italian family, and then there was this notion that, crazy was good, right? That love had to be dramatic and it had to be these highs and lows, and then you find yourself in
Yeah.
a healthy relationship and you realize it's just smooth and like
Yeah.
you don't know, it's like, what is this? What do you mean? Why are we not fighting about this?
Yeah.
It's it's definitely very very interesting to say the least. I mean, it was a huge transition time. Was there any book or any practice or any routine that also kind of like helped you during this time?
Um, I started meditating regularly at that time. Me, I do short but frequent meditations, even maybe 3 times a day for
Wow.
5, 10 minutes, and that really helps me. I saw this doctor in Austria called Dr. Hipper. Is an Austrian doctor, but he's a doctor in Chinese medicine. He studied in the Amazons, and he does a sort of hypnosis. It's not a real hypnosis, it's a very repetitive, meditative, hypnotic ritual with me, which first is very rational. It talks you through, it makes you understand things, and it repeats them, and then repeats them until like it becomes almost a hypnosis. And I went there 3 times in those 3 years, and each time he unblocked a new phase for me. Yeah.
And then at what point did you decide to start your own brand? Because it's very ballsy, like you're just
Yeah.
like everything falls apart and you're like, I'm just gonna go through my yes era and like do all the things that I want to do. How did the idea of the brand came about?
So when they let me go, they closed Missoni, which was the collection that I was designing, and they let go the whole team. And there was a bunch of people in the team that started insisting that I start my own brand. I always thought that having a point of view in fashion was not enough to start a brand nowadays because there's so much offer. And, I'm not just a couture designer. It's very different what I do. And then I started thinking, I like in the article about streetwear and about how it never really picked up for women's, but actually, it was the it was widening the gap instead of like becoming smaller. And I thought to myself, yeah, that's probably because it's actually men's sportswear that is put on women. So, yeah, you get one, but a lot of times that's not what women want. And then I started in Sony. We had this fabric that was every year the best seller every season for Times a Year, even before I got there. It was designed just by the product development, not by the designers, the design team. And I started questioning why was that so successful. And was a jersey jacquard with lurex, but a
Hmm.
jersey. And a jersey allows for the comfort of knit, but the structure of fabric almost. It holds shape almost like fabric. And so with that fabric, I could cut evening dresses, I could cut blazers, that were comfortable like a sweater. And I could cut pants that were comfortable like knit, but would stay in shape all day. And so then the two things came together. And I thought to myself, I think there is space in the market to offer something to women that responds to the same needs that streetwear responds to for men, which are functionality and versatility, but that puts women at the center and I thought I can do that with these kind of rich jerseys. So then I had, okay, I have an idea. Makes sense. I'm going to develop a brand around that. So only made out of jersey. Now we also have some knitwear, but everything is super easy, not basic. It's always kind of funky and elaborated, but easy, effortless. And that should be able to dress you from morning to evening without the need to change. That's the concept we're talking about.
What is, I mean, because obviously building or working in a brand that already kind of has such a big legacy and a big structure is very different than
Yeah.
starting your own brand.
Yeah.
What has been one of the biggest learnings in doing it yourself?
So many. It's very different because it's not only about doing it yourself, it's about doing it in a different scale. First of all, when I started Makapani, my biggest focus was on for people to take it seriously. I didn't want people to be able to say, oh, that's a copy of Missoni, or to be able to say it's an influencer brand extension kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I didn't use myself a lot. It was a bit distant from the woman I am. And that helped from, for my worry, it helped. People within the business, press and staff were like, oh, she didn't take the easy path. Oh, that's
Hmm.
interesting. On the other hand, the women who recognized themselves in me, my following, let's say, did not recognize themselves in it. So that was the biggest single challenge then, how to re-embrace myself, figuring out what is it that people like about me and what is my heritage without talking about Missoni, because obviously, my family heritage is not only the zigzag.
Yeah.
There's a research, there's the flea market. And that's something that I really took and put into Makapani with this curation that we have in partnership with eBay, for example. So that was a whole work that I started doing after. But that's my favorite part of the job, is really that thought process behind the brand building, let's say, even more than the clothing part of it. And then, yeah, when you start out, you're like, okay, we used to do 300 SKUs. Let's just do 150, which is huge
Yeah.
for a small brand. Or also, it's not only about the size, but it's about the fact that the world is changing, the market is really changing. So what worked for brands that have been around for a long time and had their structure going does not work for a small brand, so we scaled back. We scaled back a lot in terms of offering, because I realized also that people didn't understand what Makapani was. We offered too much with limited communication tools. And so we didn't have the strength to offer so much. We had to offer less things and repeat them, repeat them, repeat them for people to understand that Makapani is that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I cut out all the prints, not the prints in English, you call prints also patterns. I have a
Yeah.
lot of patterns, but actually printed fabrics we cut out, although I love them and they're still available when we do the archive openings like these days. That, it's kind of we don't do sales in our collection, but we open up archive on the merchandise that it's not part of the core anymore, because we work with a big core and then we add some shapes every season. But the collection doesn't completely change from season to season.
I think what I like the most about the brand that it really is centered around women, and you really
Hmm.
do put women at the center of it. You have like the Makapani muses and how they're all styling things in different ways and making them their own, as opposed to just showing a full look image, like which has become so
Hmm.
boring to like see brands do.
I think for me, that's very important dialogue between the brand and the wearer. So I don't want to do a seasonal look that I dictate and I expect people to wear and then changes every 6 months. I want to make pieces that then you buy and fill in your existing wardrobe next to your other skirt that you already had in your wardrobe. And so there's a dialogue in between us and the customers. And that's how the vintage accessories idea started. Because I started photographing Makapani clothings. We only make clothings apart from the bag that has a story, but we only make clothings, and I always use vintage accessories because I wanted to communicate that it's pieces that fill in your wardrobe. And then
Mhm.
at one point I was like, actually, that's, that's my aesthetic. Clearly, that's why we're doing it also. And that's something we could leverage on. Why don't we start selling them just to create some newsletter subscriptions and stuff more than to create volumes of sales? And then, yeah, I thought we could maybe partner with someone. And I reached out to eBay and I love the idea. And yeah, that's a project that I love because I think it's quite unique. Brands have been scared mm, to partner with secondhand, ready to wear with secondhand. It feels a bit like they want to steal our market, but I think it's complementary, if in our case.
Yeah.
And yeah, I like that.
100%. I feel like also like we're in an age where we're seeing all this copies of style, like of all the girls kind of looking
Hmm.
the same. It's nice to see an element of taste, and agency and all of that. And I think obviously adding vintage really
Yeah.
adds
And
to
I
this.
think what's really nice is the mix in between the two because then the vintage looks fresh and it doesn't look retro. I love vintage, I have a lot of it, but I don't really like it when it looks retro. I
Mhm.
love when it's not literal and it's broken up with something
Yeah.
contemporary. Yeah.
What do you think taste is? What does it mean to you?
Taste, good taste or taste.
Taste.
I think that taste have just like we are as beings. There's a base of it that you're born with, but there's also another layer of it that can be learned and assimilated through life. And then it becomes a merge of the two, right?
Yeah.
And so I always thought that it's really, really important to make an effort to go out and see things and visit places and meet new people and walk on the streets because that's all very inspiring and it affects
So
my grandfather used to say um to dress with bad taste, one doesn't need to follow fashion, but it really helps. So I think that, there's a thing there which is it's quite tacky to be too trendy, and effortless is something that to me always, I mean, translates into good taste. I love when something looks owned by the person and when something looks spontaneous.
let's do some rapid, quick fire questions.
Okay.
Okay. What is one thing that you used to chase that you no longer care about?
Perfection.
What's one belief about being a woman you've officially outgrown?
That we're just like men.
What's one tiny habit that has changed your life?
Meditating.
What's something you're finally giving yourself permission to do imperfectly?
Motherhood.
And what's one thing you wish every woman your age knew sooner?
That life gets better.
When you think about your life now, what do you think success looks like?
Success looks like being independent. Yeah.
And for someone that, that might be listening, that maybe is kind of like in the middle of this big life unraveling, kind of like that, situation where you were in where everything was coming in at once.
Mm.
What would you want her to hear from you?
Yeah. It sounds really annoying because it's much easier to talk about, to say these things once you're out of that tunnel or that explosion. Really trusting the process, believing that everything happens for a reason. It's the one single thing that helps, changes life, which is, I always say I discovered faith, not because I became religious, but because I really started believing that I don't know best. Life knows best. Sometimes you're not able to get out of situations, and I certainly wasn't. And so life takes them from you. If you're not creating space and letting go of things, and new things cannot come in. And sometimes you don't want new things and you're very happy with what you have, but you might need to go through a big personal growth in order to move on to the next stage. it's always difficult to leave the known, even if the known is not perfect, and jump into the unknown. Yeah, but everything happens for a reason. It does not mean that the bad guys are gonna go to jail. No, it means that you had to live through the bad guys for something that concerns you, not
Them.
them.
We're at this beautiful time of the year where we're making magic for our kids, and
Yeah,
then there's like all
yeah,
these activities.
yeah.
What is one thing you're looking forward to this holiday season?
I'm looking forward. Well, I love making the tree, but we already made it, and my kids, especially the younger one, loves it. I love making the table. It's already decorated for Christmas a month before because I always feel like it's too soon, it's too little the time that we keep the decorations on, and we don't want them on after Christmas. So there's a lot I always look forward to Christmas. I love the school plays, and I love the Christmas parties. So I'm looking forward to that too.
Yeah, that's gonna be fun. I want to add your whole selection of fashion for the holidays, your own edit at the bottom of the interview. So everyone that is
Oh,
listening to this,
cool.
please go, and then you'll
I'm
get.
doing an advent calendar in
Ooh,
Makapani looks.
oh, that's so fun! Did that just come out?
Yeah. I just started yesterday. Today was the second one.
Oh, cool. I'm gonna check that out. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being
Thank
on
you,
stage.
Victoria, for
Thank you
having
so
me. It's
much.
been a pleasure.
Thank you. We'll see you soon. Hopefully, Macapani comes to LA next.
Yeah, I really hope so. Maybe in the spring.
Yep. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye
Bye.
bye.